Welcome to the Nerdlore podcast, where we talk stories, theories, and lore. I'm one of your three hosts, Shiny Shoes.
And I'm Crashstarling.
And I'm Skandle.
And Sean's going to take us away with what we're doing today.
Hello. We are going to cover religion in video games. A very, very specific topic for, let's see. I don't have a. I've totally lost my train of thought. I apologize. So we're going to be covering religion. Don't you laugh at me.
Sorry.
I am not a comedy man. We're going to be covering religion in video games over 3 different video games. The 3 that we're going to be covering, my favorite of the RPG, like the RPGs that I played, is the Tales of series. We have Shiny Shoes doing, I believe, Dragon Age.
I'm going to talk about a couple of them.
Okay. And then Skandle was going to cover Dante's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of my first question, was like, what was your favorite video game or series that has been impacted by religion? So I'm just going to move on to, how do you guys feel about using religion as a theme for your favorite video games? Do you enjoy it more because it has religious aspects, or do you just think like, oh, this is just an element and it could be taken out altogether?
You want to tackle this one first, Shiny?
Yeah, I'll start. So I think with the religion piece, a lot of it goes into how they build the story and the characters with it. I'm going to be completely honest. The first time I played through Final Fantasy VII, I legit thought Sephiroth was just a religious zealot. That was what I thought when I played the game. I was just like, oh, well, this game is about us trying to get rid of his religion because his mom, Genova, was like his god or something sort of like that, and that's what he believes, and he had to cleanse the earth. And then I looked more into it, and I was like, okay, well, actually, Sephiroth wants to ride the planet into the comet or into the stars, which that made less sense to me. I don't understand that a lot. And then kind of you go more into it, and you just find out basically he's just a depressed person.
Would you say Sephiroth wanted to crash into that star? Would you say that?
Lord.
Boo this man.
Well, this will be the last week we're doing this, everybody.
No, it's not the last week we're gonna do this. Is last week we invite Crashstarling.
There we go. There we go. No, so I think it depends on how it's implemented, because I know that you play a lot of RPGs, and I really liked the JRP series growing up. But the problem I had with the JRPG series is it all became too cookie cutter. Like, hey, a guy falls in love with some girl and then she's in trouble, you have to go save her and stuff like that. I find my most favorite stories from all the JRPGs you end up playing are the ones that don't do that. Like, I remember Final Fantasy 11 or something like that. Everybody always asks me, hey, what's your favorite one? I always tell them that, and they're like, well, that was the weird one where you moved your characters around all goofy. And I was like, well, yeah, but the story wasn't about love. It was about political struggle, and like the church was part of the politics of that place, and like them trying to actually retake a land. So that's what I think was good about it, is it's a different way to bring a JRPG in that can make the story more interesting if done right. But there's probably plenty of examples where it isn't done right and it's just okay. That'd be kind of how I feel about that one.
All right. So, growing up, we were in the church all the time. My parents, my whole family is
Same.
like hardcore religious. Like, anytime those church doors were open, we were in church. Wednesday nights, twice on Sunday. Like, anytime there was anything going on in church.
There was just like a Tuesday that his parents were like, we're going to break into the church because we're feeling really spiritual.
I'm just saying.
Monday night Bible study, Wednesday night like confession. Then you had Friday nights every once in a while.
Yeah, and if there wasn't anything going on in the church, it was at somebody's house. So then you had to be friends with all these people, even though they were kind of lame. But whatever. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. So religion has always played an intricate part in my life, right? Which is probably why I'm such a hardcore atheist. Why I hate religion so much is just because it was shoved down my throat for so many years. But because having the Bible, we used to do this thing called Junior Bible Quiz. JBQ is what it was called, and it was literally Jeopardy with buzzers for kids. You would go to other churches and compete and get ribbons for the most points you would have for. No, I'm not kidding you. Look it up. It's called Junior Bible Quiz. It's a thing. Okay.
I'll
So
take
like
Plagues Unleashing on Man for 500.
No. That's not even how it went. This is how it would go. Right. Next question for 30 points. Quotation question, which basically means when you answer this question, you have to give the book, the verse, or the book, the chapter, the verse, and then quote it without messing it up at all to get the points. And if you messed up an and or a the, didn't get the points. I'm sorry, that's a foul. And if you got 3 fouls, you were out, and they had to replace you with a sub. Like I'm telling you, it's a legit thing. Okay. So anyway, so because I have a lot of knowledge of the Bible, having this just force fed down my throat for so many years, I despise it, right? But because I have so much knowledge in it and I'm so familiar with it, I love it in my video games. And I love the every game has that good and evil. Every game, no matter what game you play, there's a good and an evil side, right? There just is, right? And um but I think the reason that I fell in love with games like Diablo and Dante's Inferno was like the lore is still there, the hardcore Christianity aspects are still there, but you get to kind of take it into your own hands, right? Like the God of War series, Greek mythology, like I've loved those as well. The fact that you were actually able to go and fight these gods and beat them, they're supposed to be these immortal, powerful creatures. And I get that he's half God himself, but just the fact that you're able to go in and beat these things that are supposed to be unbeatable, that I love that in video games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, when you talk about that, like, mythology and everything, that's kind of where I fell in. I mean, same thing with just being forced into the church, like, as a young age, and then just brought there until I was old enough to say, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. Now, I didn't have Bible Jeopardy. I wasn't that big into it, but, I mean, I get what you're saying. Then a lot of people are like, oh, well, why don't you want to go to church now? I was like, because I remember trying to be indoctrinated as a, 6-year-old kid into this religion that I didn't understand or really want to be a part of. But I just remember having to go on with that. So the mythology piece has always been me. And I remember when I was little, like for Christmas one year, I got a dictionary. What a lame gift the dictionary is. But hey, it's gifts. I don't care. But I remember my family were always like, man, he's so smart. He just sits in his room and he reads the dictionary. I wasn't reading the dictionary. I was going through there trying to find the Greek and Roman gods because they were all listed in the dictionary that I had. So I'd go through there and try to find them. Then I remember I'd go to school and I'd be like, I'm going to go to the library and try to find these gods and figure out like what they could do. Because I thought, hey, these people had neat powers. Like the game Smite. Oh, man. I can't tell you how many times my teammates would be like, why'd you pick that character? I'm like, because their lore's really good. Let me tell you why.
Right.
They're like, but they're not good. I'm like, oh.
I do want to apologize. So we are live streaming this, so I am getting people talking in chat. So if you see me look over here, you hear me typing. I'm not trying to ignore you there, Shiny, or I just want to make sure I'm able to address the people who are talking. So I just do want to say, Randy Jackson, not nice. True, not nice though. Okay. He told me, damn Skandle, you're uglier than I remember. While accurate, very rude.
It's hurtful. It's so hurtful.
Anyway, to get back on topic, I apologize. Did we answer your questions effectively there, Crash, or you have like anything to...
I have one more thing to add, is that I think my favorite series are the ones that don't focus on the Evangelion themes of like evil versus good. Like I'm so tired and tried and like done to death where it's like, this is good guy, he must fight this bad guy, and if he lose, big no good, 1,000 years darkness maybe. But the best ones are the ones that shoot for like a balance aspect. Like I think one thing that I can attest this to is not from a video game, but there is examples of it from the Tales series. But Star Wars is actually not just Evangelion themes of dark and light. The point of the dark side is that they feel that they have succumbed to temptation and they are slaves to their own emotions, where the dark side thinks that the side of light is slaves to their own balance that they've created and have attempted to maintain. They don't like they balance each other out, but they don't exist to destroy each other because they're basically two sides of the same coin. They have to be, they have to both exist.
Like, especially when you look at Star Wars and you go into there are people pulling the strings in Star Wars. Like, usually, like your basic Jedi and your basic Sith, there could be coexistence if those individuals pulling the strings weren't saying, hey, Jedi bad, go kill them, or hey, Sith bad, go kill them. Even like when you look at Darth Vader and everything else like that, a really good thing, like, people are like, oh, Darth Vader's bad. No, he just decided, like, hey, I need to bring balance and order to the galaxy. There's no order there. And he did it through violence. Now, did he also do some crazy things? Absolutely. But his thought process, his ideology wasn't that, hey, I'm a bad guy. It was, hey, I need to bring order to the galaxy. And that's what I think.
If we can tie it back to video games, anyone who's played Star Wars: The Old Republic knows that you can choose to be both a Sith or a Jedi. But the best thing about that game is that you can choose to be a Sith of light or a Sith of darkness. You could choose your own route. And
Wait for my question before you get into this one.
Okay.
I just want. I say that because the question I have for you is, first playthrough through video games where you have like a choose your own destiny kind of game where things are affected based on the decisions you make. Do you find yourself kind of following a personal morale, like way that you kind of see the world, or like a moral compass? Do you follow your own personal compass, even by accident? Or do you like to go one way or the other? Do you like to go full light, full dark? We're not talking like, okay, I've beaten this, let's go back and let's see what happens whenever I do this all mean-wise. It's more of a, how do you play the first time around?
I'll let you start, Crash, because I've got something I want to bring.
Okay, so younger me would always choose goody two shoes. Like, I would always just be like, I have to go save the puppy. I have to deliver the basket of cookies to grandma. Like, every goddamn game was just always like this, always delivering them puppies. And now that I'm older, I essentially, like, if I don't assign my own personality to the character, I'll like give them their own personality and then decide based on that what they're gonna do. Like, the only one that I can really think of that, like, most games like that, let you have your own, personality, but they like decide your backstory. It just depends. But most of the time, it's dependent on what I think the character would do. So kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons character that I'm just really into role playing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shiny.
All right. So I like you kind of brought D&D into it because I love to talk about D&D, especially with, like, when we're not actually playing D&D, when I'm talking to people. Because one thing that you'll always get arguments about in D&D is role play versus role play, where, you're actually doing decisions your characters make. And so many times I'll sit down table and I'll get like, hey, 5 of my friends, let's play D&D. Let's start a campaign. I'll get them there. And everyone will sit down there and be like, I'm chaotic neutral. I'm chaotic neutral. I'm chaotic neutral. I'm chaotic neutral. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I just make decisions how I want to. I said, okay, that's not, you're not playing a game that you're just
impulsive.
Yeah, you're just your character has no motivation or anything. I was like, basically you're just making a best decision for the time, and that's not fun. So finally there's one day I got to sit down and I got to be a character, not the DM. And they're like, what are you playing? And I was like, well, I'm playing neutral good. And they're like, what does that mean? I was like, I do good things, but, I understand that sometimes you have to be not lawful to do good things. And I played as a monk, and I remember we were in a forest. and there were a bunch of like feral werewolf kids, and they were literally sitting on these logs, and we had to get a thing through there. And I was sitting there, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, we asked them to move, and the DM's like, they don't move. And I was like, okay. I asked them to move again. He said, one of them lunges at you. And I said, okay. And my character was made just solely to basically, I wanted to trip you and then hit you while you were on the ground. That's how I made my monk. It was a grapple class based monk, and I tripped you and beat you up while you're down because I get extra bonus attacks when you try to get up. When you try to get up, I can just trip you again. So that's how I made him. And I grabbed the kid and I threw it on the ground. And he says, all the other kids attack. So the very first kid that gets it, I said, okay. So the kid jumps at me and I crit. And I kill it, one-shot it. Boom. And he said, you can't do that. You said you were good. I said, yes, I am good. But if something's attacking you, you can still fight back. I was like, that's what I want you to understand. When I play games, I usually play as the good guy, like my first time through. But there's a really interesting study about this, and the reason why I got up. So this book right here, I don't know if you can see it or not.
Reality is broken.
It's by an author named Jane McGonigal, and she did a study on gamers, like a massive study on gamers. And what she found is the gamers in online communities or communities where you got to roleplay or play as someone you'd like, those individuals became the best versions of themselves online. Where someone who normally online, someone in the real world who's scared or timid, they would go online and they could be brave. And they could do things they wouldn't do in real life. She said a lot of times you become the best version of yourself when you put yourself into the game. She did a bunch of studies in there, and she looked at the psyche of a gamer and the minds of gamers and how they react to problems. And she found that just in general, people that play games like this and a bunch of other games, our ability to problem solve is much higher than individuals who don't. So much so that they use gamers' problem solving abilities to help with genetic research. They put a game up online, and the game, you basically took genes and you had to connect them. So the gamers played it as a game. They were trying to create interesting gene structures throughout the game. Well, so many people played it and so many people did it. They created gene structures and patterns that the scientists had never even thought of. And some of those were used to help cure diseases, and they're still looking at them. It's
Imagine being so gamer that you play God. Incredible.
I have built a new genome.
So to go along with this D&D aspect that you're talking about, and I don't want to go all into D&D or whatever, but when I first moved to Missouri, when my parents got married, I started at this new school, and the teacher there played a MUD. I don't know if you guys know what a MUD is, but it's a multi-user dimension, and it's all just a text-based game. Like the entire game is text-based. So you create your character, and back then they didn't have a whole ton of classes, but and then they had subclasses. So if you picked a cleric, you could be like a zealot of the faith, or you could be a priest of healing, or a priest of protection, or so they had all these things that you could be, and then you rolled for stats. It was pretty much like totally D&D based, right? But what was great about that was they made you at level 10 create a description about yourself, so you had to figure out what you looked like, and then at level 30 you had to have a psychological description as far as who you were as this character, right? And I know this sounds super nerdy, and I let Sean play for a little bit before it finally went down after 25 years of being alive. But what I loved about that game, one of my favorite characters I ever played was a priest of healing. But I was a priest of healing that worshipped Rungakutta, who was the lord of death, decay, and corruption. So I'm the priest of healing, but my god is this god of death, right? That's the anti. It's like, yeah. So anyway, the way I role played it was, with death became life, with corruption came purity, with it's that whole. Anyway, it was great because I played a dark elf, and it was just there. It was one of my favorite things in the world, and totally know that I am a big nerd on this one. But D&D is one of those games where, for me, if you don't, even though you make the character, if you don't have that deity that you worship, it's really hard for me to get a feel for who that character actually is. So, yeah. So,
Yeah,
uh,
there.
I think that I was gonna say, I think that games that focus on deities that like branch out into like a specific thing instead of like Catholicism, where it's like, yep, that's the big guy. He does all of it.
Big
But
space wizard.
like, yeah, Sky Daddy. He does everything. He does. He makes the rain. Yeah. He also makes, the insects, and he programs what all the cells do. He does all that. Where instead of that, where it's like old versions of like Greek mythology and Norse mythology and even like Native American belief systems, were like, yeah, that rock belongs to the rock god. You see that tree? That's tree god. You see that deer? That's deer god. You don't mess with deer god.
No, it's got antlers. That's why I stay away from it.
You just don't mess with deer god.
Yeah. I think it's really neat when you get into those games where they do kind of look at it differently, and you kind of go through the different deities and stuff like that, and you see that. And I mean, what great game would it be if it like took that and it just built a religion, and then like maybe even like an MMO style game where it built that religion, like you had to pick, hey, I'm about this or I'm about this, and then your god would bestow powers upon you based upon your, I don't know, zealotness or like how devout you are to that religion.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna ruffle a lot of feathers, but how neat would that be?
Right, and then depending on how popular the game became, especially if it's an MMO, you know your religious sect is that's who you go raid with, that's who you go PvP with, because obviously your god is at war with another god. Thank you for the bits, Randy. I really appreciate that, dude. Thank you. Sorry. But yeah, I think that's actually a really, really cool idea.
I think it'd be neat to kind of explore that,
maybe we should patent that.
Let's go. Like I have no ability to computer, but when you think about it, like just how neat it would be, because you basically, even better, like instead of you getting to choose, you start up the game and you take a 100-question personality test.
Oh.
And then you have to answer it, and then based upon how you answer, it drops you into a religion.
Yeah.
Like how crazy would that be?
I like that. I don't know if many people would want to do 100.
I wouldn't do 100.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna get the game, and they don't have to be like crazy hard questions.
Right, but so there are a lot of tests that are done by psychology and psychologists whenever you go in and find out like where you are on a spectrum as far as how just kind of where you are, and they'll ask questions like, do you want to kill dogs? And you say no, but then it goes, have you ever hit your dog for going to the bathroom in the house or whatever? Like you go, it delves deeper to find out exactly where you are.
Draw the line,
so you could do like 10 questions, and then based on the answers go a little further to find out exactly, you know what I mean? Like, okay, because you answered this way, you fit into 3 gods, but now we got to figure out which god you actually do fit in with, so we're gonna have to delve a little deeper into that answer.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
like theory crafting. That would, I just think that would be fun to just like, hey, I'm playing a game, and you know what? I'm a god. Well, I worship this god, and this god says grain is stupid, so I'm sorry, grain god, but I've got to burn down your farm. I'm sorry.
Grain. I think he said the green god. Grain. Yeah, I thought he said green god. I'm like, oh, you want to mess with green god now?
I am blue god. Fear me, green god.
I want that. At first I was like, personality test. What? We're not playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But then you like went into the details, and I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of likes that.
Yeah, like how neat would that be if it takes choice out of it, and you just, hey, answer the questions right, and if how you would answer them, and then it puts you with people who are like-minded. Unfortunately, you're like, hey, who's all on this server? Oh, it's a bunch of people in jail because they're serial killers. Weird. Weird.
Just put them in the pocket dimension. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't go to that server. They're a bunch of weird people over here. Yeah.
So Shiny, you got a question you want to?
Yes. So we talked about basically we went through religions and things like that. So there have been a lot of video games with religion in it, and I want to know, who is your favorite actual religious zealot from, and it could be video games, movies, or books, kind of anything like that. I'll give you guys a little time to go into yours, because I'll start with mine, because I have this one ready.
Okay.
So there's a game called Dynasty Warriors, and Dynasty Warriors is actually based upon actual Chinese history. At the beginning of a lot of the Dynasty Warriors game, you fight against the Yellow Turban Rebellion. And the Yellow Turban Rebellion is led by Zhang Zhao. And I remember that because you fight that guy a million times, because you have to beat the game a million times to get all the characters. But Zhang Zhao, he basically took together all these people for the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He took up this land, and he was like, hey, I am a direct disciple of God. Watch this. And he was like, I rain fire from the... And he said it just like they said, the heavens! And catapult flames would fly over the map, and everything would catch on fire. So, he was a crazy religious zealot. And I can't tell you how much I enjoyed just fighting that guy in every video game, because you would run basically all the allied Chinese forces work together IRL to crush this rebellion. Like all the dynasties work together, so everybody was at a team at this point, and you'd all just go and crush all these poor farmers that had no idea how to fight you. And you get to the top of the mountain, because he was always on top of a mountain, and you'd get up there, and his two brothers would be there, and you'd fight them and weaken him, and then you'd fight him, and you'd be like, wow, this is a great way to start the game. We're just quelling an uprising. This is fun. Then the game would go on, and you would find different things. After you did that, you would go to Hulao Gate, which is an actual place, and you would fight, pretty much like their god of war. His name's Lu Bu. And he is
Lu Bu.
Lu Bu. And
they should have just named him Boo Boo.
Lu
God of War.
And he used so have you guys ever heard of Guan Yu?
No.
Okay, so Guan Yu's another like really famous person Chinese. Guan Yu's horse was named as Red Hair, and Guan Yu was like one of the baddest warriors ever. Lu Bu took Guan Yu's horse from him. That's how BA is. The horse is called Red Hair, and it's like mythology, like a red horse, and it was really fast. But the whole game is great, but I just think you starting the game off fighting a religious zealot was always something that I love. So
mine is I'm going next. Mine is Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria, because she is my edgy mom and I love her. That's literally like I know Skandle makes jokes like you can't be attracted to cartoon characters, they're drawings. I'm like, yeah, well, she's a hot drawing, okay? So fuck off.
Whoa. I wasn't the one that dropped the F-bomb tonight, boys and girls. It was not Skandle tonight.
The one time I get too hyped is over anime titties.
You touch the nerve, dude. That's
how you know
you tell him.
That's how you know you've worked with me too long.
I'm not going to spoil too much, but essentially...
guilty. Sorry, I was answering chat. I didn't mean to say it out loud.
Oh no. Oh no. So essentially, she is a religious zealot for a religion that her brother created. And
hell yeah.
She spends her entire life trying to break down the structure that he's built up and all of his plans. And it's my favorite thing because it's the good and it's like good versus evil, but like it's backwards. You know, like how people generally like to flip, like, oh, do you know the church is actually kind of evil?
I've heard that.
Yeah, you know. So, Skandle, who's your favorite religious zealot? So I can stop
talking. I don't have one by name, but I will tell you like what my favorite sect of religion always was. The Order from Silent Hill has always been my favorite. Like just how dark and willing to do anything to stop what's happening. Like it was just God, man. Like they were so. I don't even have a word for what they were. Like
we talked about them a little while back with Magnus, and he was telling us basically how crazy they were and their goals and.
They made so Silent Hill was a creepy game anyway, especially when we were playing it. But then, like when you started to understand why things were happening the way they were happening, it got hi Jill. It got real. it got real dark and real creepy and real scary real quick, and it's always just been one of my favorites. I just
I mean, that's a pretty good religious organization, I would say. Who's got another question? I know Crash went through his. You got another one, Skandle?
I don't. Mine was just kind of how you do your compass.
Okay. I got one for basically video games. Okay. There are a bunch of religions in video games. I'm not necessarily looking for like who's your religious zealot or anything. What game did you enjoy that religion, or like you could see yourself like, hey, this is something I could get down with?
Wait, okay, ask the question again because I was typing in chat. Sorry.
So like basically, they're video game religions. I mean, there are a bunch of them that just worship all kinds of crazy different things. Mm-hmm. What game has had a religion where you thought like, this ain't that bad?
Not a one.
Yeah, like
where it's like I can go play through a game and be like, oh, that sure is cool. They have faith in the goddess Martel. And they're like, oh, would you worship her? No, I got my own stuff to do. I don't have time for that.
Why don't you give us who you would answer, and that might spark an answer for me, because I don't have a clue either.
Yeah. So, basically the one that I kind of thought of, and because I thought for a little while on this, and like went through like what video game religion would I kind of move into. There was a game for the PlayStation, Legend of the Guy. I think I talked about it a couple weeks back. But basically, they prayed to trees, and like really powerful trees. So the trees had energy inside
like
them.
Oak trees.
Yeah, like super big trees, and like so the tree, you would pray to the tree, and it would do stuff. And eventually, if the tree answered your prayers, it would give you like this monster to put on your arm, basically. Okay. And it was like a good monster, and the monster would enhance your strength and give you all kinds of other stupid powers, but the monster also was part of the tree, and it would like talk to you and like give you guidance and help you and guide you. I've always thought like, hey, if I was going to join some crazy religion, I might as well be a tree person and get the fire monster on my arm. And like
I have one thing to say about that. Acid must be a hell of a drug there.
Yeah.
As you go through the game, so you would find more trees. That sounds stupid.
What? There's more than one?
But
who'd have thought you're in a forest, man?
the tree, you were looking for special trees, and they're called Genesis trees. And every time you found a tree, your little monster on your arm would level up. And the monster was there to reflect you, so it would take your type attunement, and also the monster would become a weapon. So like the main character, his arm turned into like a giant sword eventually. Like there was a sword coming off. There was a girl, and hers would have like a fan, and then the one guy had like an axe.
Extra hot days.
Yeah, like. Oh no, hers was a bug. It became like a bug, and it had wings that come off it. And then the blue guy, his was an axe, but it spun. It was great. I loved it. And like in the very first, you start the game off and like all these monsters attack, and they're like, "Hey, we need to go pray to the tree." And I was like, "All right, I don't got nothing better to do. Might as well go pray to this tree. Let's go."
I don't know. There's only one video game that comes to mind, and it's back whenever I was a little kid. I always wanted to be a member of Double Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
I just always thought that they were cool. I never really understood why they were beating up females with whips and other gang members. But yeah, it was. But those games, and the reason I didn't know what they were doing is because those games were so unbelievably hard, and you could never continue. So, like, if you died ever, you had to start all over again. And I was like, nah, I'm good. So I don't know anything about
becoming a double dragon.
Why they were doing what they were doing. But it was always cool to me to do that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. I'm just still processing what Shiny was talking about.
I mean, I too look for special trees that will enhance my.
This sounds like a long process, just going through a thing where he's like,
This is
a happy little tree.
This is a
my
special
happy
tree.
little Glock.
This is a special tree.
And it just went deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole too. Like I have to pray to a tree. Now I gotta go find these really powerful trees.
Yeah,
they were really strong. Like,
were they? Did they lift?
Listen, they did. There could be a whole lore video of old crappy PS1 RPGs. That would be a great one to go into, and I could talk for a long time about that game. But just know they prayed to the trees, and the trees answered. They helped.
Nice.
So that was kind of
the Lorax.
Right.
Yeah, the Lorax. Yes.
Sean, you got an answer?
I was just imagining Skyrim religions, and I was like, well, that's cool, I guess. Sometimes they might give you some type of super powerful weapon, but now I just want to hear more about these super powerful lifty trees. I just want to hear about these trees, man. I don't know what it is about there where it's like,
dude, that's Groot.
Do they talk to you, or is this like that's what I want to know? Is like, are you going up to these trees and like, please, great tree, bestow upon me your power?
Like all the trees are pretty much not trees, but the special trees are pretty much dead.
What do you mean they're not trees?
No, they are trees. Just not. They're not like normal trees. Like it isn't like, oh, you just walk into the forest. No, they're okay. That was a terrible question. They are a tree. They're definitely a tree, but they're special trees, and there's only like one in an entire forest. And so what's happening in the game is like the bad guys are creating this thing called mist, and mist make all the monsters go crazy. So you used to live in harmony with them. Now you don't, like not like that, like a fog kind of. So the trees, they have mystical powers. So you pray to the tree, or you reawaken it, and it has the ability to push the mist away. Like it filters the air, basically.
So it does tree things.
Yeah, it does like super tree things. So you're going around to try to get all of these so you can push the mist back so the monsters aren't killing everybody anymore.
So the whole point of this video game is to kind of show you how plants turn carbon dioxide into oxygen.
Photosynthesis, the game. It's great. I love it.
But that's actually the title of the game. You could have just told us that from the beginning.
No, and it was neat because you would do all that and you'd help the trees out, and then you play the game, and I pray to the trees. Sometimes I'd go out my yard and be like, man, I wish that tree would give me powers, but it wouldn't. It was just an oak tree.
All right.
My head hurts.
Hey,
so
it's one of those...
I think that's it, right? I think we've hit every question.
I think that's a fine episode there.
Did anybody in chat have any questions they want to ask? I know typed in there. If not, no big deal.
I have a YouTube link to the last video we did. I just posted it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that one is posted on Friday, right? Last Friday. That one got posted up on the YouTube channel.
Yep, that's
please feel free to go there, check out all the videos that are there, even the one, this amazing co-host joined the team. Those are still some good ones. Feel free to subscribe. Just playing. I'm not that kind of guy, I promise. Please, if you do enjoy the YouTube side, please hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that little bell so you know whenever we upload every Friday. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about YouTube. You guys can.
I think so that'll end this week. Next week we're going to talk a little bit topically about what's going on in the current events of video games. Maybe get a little bit into the cinematic universe as well, and then we'll go from there. So until then, this has been Shiny Shoes.
I'm Crashstarling.
I'm the real Skandle.
Signing out. Thank you.